Recording in progress. Okay. Oh, gem.
Could it be the regarding Kenta's tree, could it be the annotation wrong for the name?
Yeah, I'll take a look after. There's a couple possibilities, but
There are many things that are.
GeneBank is unfiltered garbage and good information at the same time. Oh, tea. Oh, it smells good. Smells like winter in Kagoshima. Actually, Kenta and Mari right now are kind of doing the same thing. You guys have massive trees that you need to annotate. Pretty cool. Mari's tree is huge. How many? 140, you think?
Yeah.
140?
From
すっごい多様性。もう nematodes are crazy, I've learned.
I'm just at the order in
Antibacteria? Yeah, that's a bit crazy when you think about it. Okay, let's start class. If you guys get hot, we'll turn the aircon on, but for now, should be okay. Just like last week and the week before, probably about 1 hour. Really, I've only prepared 30 or 40 minutes of talking, but then a lot of you have questions, so we'll do that. Looking at the notes that I've made, I think after this, there's probably about 3 more classes. I'll try to run 1 more class next week, and then maybe a couple classes in January. And then you should all have really good basic specimen knowledge. So without further, and I'm going to record this and put this on YouTube as usual. Without further ado, let's go to there. Let's go here. Let's go there. Boom. Will it work? I just pressed everything all at once. Are you seeing presenter or the other view?
Presenters.
Let's try this. How? No.
That's good.
I gotta stop.
That's good.
You would think PowerPoint is smart, but no. So I go over here. I go. Ooh, wait. There's not enough space. There's also down here. Let's see if I go there and I go there and nope. Hang on. We can do this. I think I'll just do this. Share screen. I'm gonna try doing this. Hey, Fenda. Okay, so why? My computer's drunk. Hang on. And now there's this there. Let's go there. It says desktop 2. I'm shit. Hang on, it's taking its time. Let's try this. This sucks. Okay, I'm gonna mirror my screen. Hang on. File, system preferences, displays, arrangement, mirror displays. Ha! Now there's no way. There's no way out of this. Okay. Oh, come on. Why? Ah. No, it's computer's drunk. Maybe I go over here. Did I go there? No. And I don't even have the swap displays, do I? Where's the swap displays?
This is what.
Oh, there it is. It's in the light. Okay. Let's try this. Let's go back here. Zoom meeting, share screen. Desktop number one, Microsoft PowerPoint. Let's try that. Share screen, share. Let's try that. Amazing. What are you seeing on, but now it's not sharing the right screen on Zoom. This is punishment. Okay, share screen, desktop 2, share. Go here. Which are you seeing? If still presenter or present?
All good.
It's all good. Okay. Finally. Okay, so what we're going to do today, sorry for the delay, man, is we're going to talk about ICZN, and we're going to start talking about species. We're not yet quite at describing species, but we're getting closer. So until now we did what? Notes, we did museums, and we did notebooks and data management, right? So today we're going to start talking about species and ICZN. So first things, ICZN. Come on. Now my animation isn't working. Just a second. Just a second. Why? Stop sharing. It's like everything's in revolt today. Animation. Up here. Start on click. Okay, let's try that. But I need to share screen, share screen, share screen. Desktop 2, share screen, go there. Is it working? Okay, cool. ICZN. So I already put the answer up once. You probably saw it. But ICZN is... No. I know it's the Bible. Well, it's not the Bible. It's more important than the Bible. But what does it stand for? International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. Okay, so this is actually kind of important because there is more than one code. There's another code out there that I'll talk about in a second. So zoology means animals. Dobutsugaku. So in other words, this is the code that's mainly covering animals. Where is it? So it used to be sold by books. I have version 4 or 5 in my office, but the most recent version is, I believe, 6. It is online and freely available. If you copy and paste International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, you will go to the ICZN homepage and you can look at the ICZN. So it's online, okay? I will show it to you after, but actually it is not very exciting. It is very much written like a lawyer, bengoshi ga kaiteru yoni. It's very much written, but it's very simple. There's a lot of information and a lot of rules, but it's written so that any case can be used, any animal or any situation can be used. So it's very boring and very vague on purpose. Wazato keko aimai na buncho ga oi. Because it wants to make sure that we can all use it for taxonomy, okay? It covers animals, okay? So this is metazoa. It covers almost all metazoa, but not all metazoa. For example, it does not cover dinoflagellates. It does not cover algae, etc., protists, apicomplexans, things like that. They have their own code, which is called ICN, which is the International Code of Nomenclature, which came before the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. That's why it's not ICBN or ICPN or something, okay? The thing that's really important is this is pure taxonomy. This deals with species and how to describe species and what to do if two people describe species at the same time, or if Kenta finds a sea anemone and gives it a name and then realizes last year a goose did the same thing. You know, how do you solve all of these problems? In other words, there are many, many rules in here. The other thing to remember about ICZN is it is only up to class. And I'm saying up to class on purpose, not down. So taxonomy is based, write this on the board here. Taxonomy is based on species. Species is the finest identification besides population or something. ICZN deals with species, right? So that is the most detailed, the most refined. So many people have difficulty thinking, did we describe up to species level or down to species level, right? In English. But my thinking is species is the smallest and the finest, it's down. Up is higher, down is lower. You guys know your ranks, right? If we have species down here, don't worry about sub, you know, genus, family,
That's.
phylum, kingdom. And I've spotted a mistake. Hang on. There it is. Family, sorry. ICZN officially only covers this. There are rules governing how you name, how you describe, what to do if there's a problem, but it's only up to family. Things above this, people try to follow the rules, but it doesn't, you can do anything here. This is crazy. You can do anything you want. So this is one reason many people do molecular phylogeny, and many people work on massive genomic trees, and they say, oh, there's not 3 kingdoms, there's 4, there's not 4 kingdoms, there's 5. Oh, there's a new phylum, and they just write a name and put a crazy name in there in a paper. The reason you can do this is because ICZN stops here. If it's below here, you have to follow ICZN. If it's above, there's no rules. And so there are people, particularly molecular phylogeneticists and genomicists, that their career is up here. But most of us are working here. Mari might get up in here at some point. Kurt's down here because he's working on an order. I think everyone else is usually down here, desne. So most of our work in our lab is going to be governed by ICZN, if there's any taxonomy. Okay? Okay. So please remember this, and please remember that this is the foundation. This is the basis for everything. So we're going to talk about this next class too, a lot about this. Questions? Anything okay for now? Easy, right? Yeah? Maybe? Yeah? Okay, cool. So last week or the week before, we talked about identification and we talked about taxonomy and how they are different, but kind of the same, right? So today, what I want to do before we go to species, before we go to describing species, we should talk about identifying species. Okay? And of course, every group of animals has different rules. Maybe for black corals, Kurt said last week, you look at the spines and the formation. Maybe for anemones, what do you look at for anemones?
I don't think that's.
You don't know.
Nidae, because anemone have 27 types of nidae. Zoantharians have 6. It's very easy. Okay. Nematodes, they're kind of their shape. The mouth. Reproductive organs. Soft corals. Sclerites, generally. Sclerites. Colony form sometimes, yeah. Garbage? Sorry, garbage is not here, right? But
Yeah.
garbage affects all of these.
It's not hard to make.
Hmm?
Hard to define a genetic trait.
Yeah, but you're right. You're absolutely right. No, and they have their own, garbage has their own system, like in your paper that's under review or revision right now. So identifying species with taxonomy. I'm not going to talk about how you identify each species, because I think you know that. What I want to talk about is what you write and what you do and the different categories. This is pretty easy, but the first thing is an authority, right? Authority. Authorita. So authority is the original description. Question. Is an authority a reference? Okay, this is a tough question. So inyo bunki ni okay, so is an authority a reference? Yes or no? Who says yes?
Only say yes.
Okay, so we got 3 yeses. Who says no? Who says I don't know?
I say it can be.
Who says both? Okay, so basically my thinking on an authority, so the authority is the original description of the species. No matter how good or how bad it is, there's only one authority for a species, okay? Authorities are like this, and references are like this. So an authority can be a reference, but often it's not, which is unfortunate. And we'll talk a little bit about this. So the differences are, okay, let's do, if we do ref, and we do authority, this is, the overlap here is probably taxonomy and identification, right? Taxonomic and identification. This is more pure taxonomy. Many people here just use references for papers, and this really depends on journals. But some journals have very strict limits on the numbers of references, right? So they say only 20 references or only 10 references. So many people, many ecologists, many molecular geneticists, they do not use authorities in their reference. To me, that's wrong. I will say it only here, it's crap. A species, we'll talk about this next week, is a hypothesis. This is different than everything else. This is its own species. That's the same as any scientific question. Whoever found and described the species first made a scientific hypothesis. This is different from everything else. It's a testable hypothesis because the specimen, we talked about this last week, and is in a museum. You can get data from the specimen. So my thinking is you should reference authorities. When you write a paper, you should reference authorities. There's no rules, you don't have to, but I think you should, if you're using a species, you're focusing on one species, the first time you mention the species, you give the authority, and then you put the authority in your reference list. You don't have to, and many people don't, which is a cause of many problems. Pocillopora damocornis. Everyone uses Pocillopora damocornis, a coral, for experiments. No one puts the authority. Poecilodamocornis, probably 10, 20, 30 species. Huge disaster. So, for example, okay, let's take a look. What's the difference between these two? Zoanthus sansibardicus, Carlgren 1900, and Zoanthus sansibardicus, Carlgren 1900. Kurt knows the answer, so I'm not going to ask Kurt. Sorry, Kurt. I know you. I want to see if someone else does. Do you guys know the difference? Okay, August, what's the difference?
Takes the genus name.
Okay, and above?
Is the origin.
Yeah, okay. So this is where, so you can reference an authority, but you cannot change the format. This format has meaning, important meaning. I teach this in first year lab class. Do you remember, Kenta? 生物学事件も教えてるよ。So basically what this means is, and there's many problems, and I'll talk about this in a second, but this means this is Zoanthus sansibardicus. It was originally described by Carlgren in the year 1900. Since the species was described, or right now, this species, not the genus, the species sansibardicus is still in the same genus as when Carlgren described it. The species has not moved, is now not moved into another genus. Maybe it moved around and came back, we don't know, but right now it's in the same genus as described. Here, Zoanthus sansibardicus with the parentheses means the species sansibardicus was described, but it has moved into something different. It was originally described in a different genus. So this is why this is also important here. The formatting between a reference and an authority is different. You cannot change an authority format. If the journal says, oh, this is a reference, you must put in parentheses. Cannot, must not. Authority has different meaning. So this is also really many journals, many molecular journals do not understand this. If you write a paper with some taxonomy or with authorities and your paper gets accepted, congratulations, the journal will change these to this because they don't know. And you actually sometimes have to fight with the journal. No, this is an authority. This is all written in Worms, or not, in ICZN as well. But you can still reference, you can put even this format, you can put in your list and change the formatting, that's okay. But in your sentence, in your words, you have to keep the formatting like that. It's really small, but because it tells important information, it's really, really important. So in this case, no. Yet, so here, it's not a reference, but it is a reference you can put in a list. It's kind of confusing, but some people look like they understand, some people don't. Do you understand, Kairi? Uega? Okay, so reference is inyo bunken. So you cannot change the formatting. Format no henko shite wa ikenai. Dakedo, inyo bunken no list ni nosete mo ii. Inyo bunken is different yakuwari dakedo. This is a paper. This is a paper. It's in your paper. You can put in your reference list. So is an authority a reference? The answer is yes and no. Stefano, hey, yeah.
Authority.
Yeah.
So it means that that species is still in this group because it hasn't changed since that.
It might have changed.
It might have changed.
It might have gone somewhere and came back. We don't know. What it means is right now, this combination, this binomial combination is what it was when it was originally described.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In which scenarios do you change the authority?
You never change the authority. The authority never changes.
It changes the name?
No. If the name changes, it's a different name. It's a different authority. If it's sansibarica and sansibardicus, which is just Latin, we'll talk about that next week. But no, one name one authority. Could be many people, but one name, one authority.
Yeah, regarding the one.
Yeah,
The number of people per.
no, that's next week, and it's changed. It's different than it used to be. No worries, no worries. There's old school thinking and new school thinking, but yeah. So, but for now, the main thing is, so why I'm teaching you this now is when you go to look at your animals, say you have a lot of nematodes or sea cucumbers, or well, not garbage, sorry, but you have a lot of different animals, you're looking at them. You want to identify them, you need to write probably what the species is. Oh, it's Zoanthus sansibaricus, but Zoanthus sansibaricus, Karlgren 1900. So you need to sort of know what an authority is, okay, to identify. The other thing is when you do a species name, of course, the name is in italics, right? Easy, right? When is a species name not in italics? Yeah,
Underline,
why?
because you might be writing other text in italics.
Okay, so the rule is that a genus and a species name have to be different than the surrounding text. That's the rule. So usually we use italics, nanamenikaku, because then, oh, it's different. But if your title is in italics, or if the whole paragraph is in italics, this genus and species, if they're in italics, they're the same as the other text. You cannot tell the difference. In that case, you do underline. Okay, so I wrote there underlined, etc. So whenever, and journals will also make mistakes on this. They will change, they will put the title in italics, keep the species name in italics. They say, no, it must be different than the surrounding text. There are rules in ICZN, you can tell them, blah, blah, blah. And then in the end, it's fine. Yeah.
Bolding and coloring doesn't apply here.
It's usually italics and underline. Those are the only two. I mean, you could do other things. The ICZN is vague. It says that it must be different. But if you do color and someone's colorblind, not so good. Bold, recent invention, kind of, right? Okay. So where can you check authorities? And Kurt knows the answer, so I think you know the answer. Roger knows the answer. How do you check authorities? If you have a species name, do you look at a guidebook? Worms. Always go to worms. I'm gonna open the door. It's a little bit. Maybe I'll turn this on. Go to worms. If you go to worms, you can check the authorities. And they have worms is about 99% correct. Yes, it's pretty good. Come on. What? Okay. Where can you find original descriptions? The other thing is not only worms, but maybe you're curious. Maybe you're like, like, here's the species. I think it's this species. Here's the authority, but I want to read Karlgren 1900. I really want to see, is what I have the same as what they saw 123 years ago. So where can you find original descriptions? Okay, first thing, yeah, BDHL, Biodiversity Heritage Library. This is another homepage. It is very good for some taxa and very bad for others, but it's not complete for almost any. This is a homepage. The problem is PDFs, usually papers are after 1995, sometimes in the 80s and 70s, but older papers, older literature. The oldest Zoantharian literature I have is 1768, Ellis. I made a PDF myself. So BDHL has a large collection of older papers, very old papers, but it's not perfect. There are other places you can also find original descriptions. Of course, you could look on Google Scholar. Your chances are pretty low, but maybe you get lucky. And a lot of this varies by taxa or taxon. Depending on which group you're looking at, your results are different. But the other thing, there's one other place you can find descriptions. It's really old school. Guichet wins.
Oh.
Libraries and museums. So libraries, maybe not so great, but museums. The other reason you should go to museums is not only for specimens. A lot of the big, old, famous museums, especially in Europe and for Japanese literature, Japan, they have huge collections just on a shelf. Like when I went to Naturalis in Netherlands, they had so many. I spent a week with Angelo. Angelo Poliseno came and visited me as an intern. He's not here, of course, now. And we spent a week scanning and photocopying all these. So now I have most of the Zuantheria original literature. So Naturalis, Monaco, Paris, London, Sackenberg, National Museum in Tokyo, Smithsonian, California Academy of Sciences. A lot of these places have a really good collection. So when you go to a museum, don't forget to check their collection. Yeah.
How do you link, for example, let's say I want to find the original description of Tetrapoda, right?
So you go to Worms.
Yeah.
You look up if you want the genus. You want the genus? A genus, or you want the species?
Genus.
So the genus was described at the time as one of the species was described. So you need to know, we'll talk about this next week, the type species of the genus. Then you find the authority. And if you have the authority, then you can probably find the title of the paper. With the title of the paper, then maybe if you're lucky, you find it at Biodiversity Heritage Library. Maybe you have to look around. Maybe it's not on the internet. Maybe you talk to a taxonomist, they give you a copy. Maybe you go to a museum. It's hunting. It's literally hunting for, the older stuff is hunting. Some groups very organized, some groups total disaster. Corals, not bad, not great. Corals, Zoantharians about the same. Probably Antipotharians the same. So that's how it's the thing is, for any of you who are going to do taxonomy in the future, please make sure that you spend time looking for these, because you have to compare to original descriptions. And you can't just find like in 10 minutes. Also, what's the site that has all the PDFs? ScienceGate? No, what's the Russian site? Sci-Hub? Sci-Hub doesn't usually have these. Sorry, guys. So it's hard to find these sometimes. So if you're doing serious taxonomy into the future, your PDF collection is like your notebook. It's like your specimen records. It's another valuable tool that you need to keep and manage. Okay? Questions? Online, anything? No problem. There's one more. I forgot. There's one more. One more source where you can buy. I've bought on Amazon old descriptions. A lot of the older books are sold by antique bookstores or specialty bookstores. There's a store in Germany that specializes in them. So just like fancy rum from the Union, you can buy old stuff online. Wow, pretty cool. Okay, let's go to the next one. Identifying specimens. So if you have a bunch of specimens, right? And you've gone through and you've identified as well as you can, you have your original descriptions, you understand your authorities, you've got a good list, and you're starting to identify stuff. Of course, some are going to be, this is Zoanthus sansibaricus. This is easy. But some of them might not be, right? You can see some people going, okay, like soft corals are really difficult. Nematodes, even more difficult. Anemones, probably lots of problems. Nanipora, we're getting there, right? So species names, of course, are great. As well, there's something called sensu. This means according to. If you find a species and the original description is not very good, or someone has done something newer, you could do Zoanthus sansibaricus Karlgren 1900, Sensu de Palmas 2018. Sensu means this species, so the species and authority never changes. this species, but according to someone's name. So sometimes you find a paper, it's called redescription. Redescription of blah, 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 blah. So it's not the authority, but someone has done more detail, more information. So you can use sensu. Or you could do, for example, maybe use cases. Oh yeah, this is this macroalgae. Oh, no, sorry, not macroalgae. Can't talk algae. Only animals. This is this sea cucumber, right? So you could say, and I described it last year. So Coyote could say, oh, I identified this as Holothera atra, Jaeger 1883, sensu, Iwaki 2023. Right? So you can, that's how you do, so not new names, but if someone describes again, you can use sensu. Okay? Sometimes, most species you don't need to, but Paucilodamacornis, a few of the Acropora, some of the common species maybe have been described multiple times. Gets confusing. But, okay, Kurt knows this answer, maybe. Roger maybe knows this answer. Stefan, maybe, but I'm going to ask anyone. Anyone can answer. What do you do? What do you do if you're only 80% positive? You think you like, so you have a specimen, you think it's this species, and you're like, yeah, about 80%, 70%. I think this is this species. What do you do? CF. CF. Zoanthus, CF, sensibaricus. CF means confers with, or confinus in Latin, but we'll just say confers with. It's easier to remember. This is a way to hedge your bet. This is a way to not be 100%. Let's say you find an anemone, Kenta, and you're like, yeah, this is probably Isoactinus izumiensis or something, right? But you're not 100%, yeah, Dekido, I'm not 100% sure. And you don't want to make a mistake. Maybe someone goes, oh, Kenta, he sucks, he made a mistake. And you're, oh. So if you're not 100%, but you're like, probably, and this is the closest, you know, Isoactinus CF izumiensis, for example, izumi, if you're after the person, okay? So CF is a way to sort of make it fuzzy. But it's actually important because you're saying, I think it is, but I'm not sure. And it's important if you're not sure. Emmeline has a paper that's published on Sclerophytum CF heterospiculum because we aren't 100% sure. Why are you not sure? Maybe the shape is different, maybe the color is different, maybe the DNA is different than what's been reported, maybe the locality is very far away. There's many reasons you can be not sure. And it's okay. Any of those are okay for CF, okay? If you think it is this species, but not 100%, CF is your thing. What if I don't know this specimen, it's close to this species, it's related to this species, but it's not this species. AFF, right? AF, same idea. You think it is not that species, but it's close. So this is the opposite. This is like 20% confidence or something, right? I don't know what you do at 50. You have to choose one or the other, right? But if you're more confident it is the species, it's CF. If you're less confident it is the species, it's AFF. Affinity with. I like these big chalk. Affinity with. Right? Confer, same as. Affinity, close to. Makes sense. What if you know it's your specimen is in the genus and you have no idea? Sp. If you really have no idea, do you just know it's in the genus? It's important to use SPA. SPA is completely different than just a genus name. Okay? This is kind of weird, but you need to understand this for taxonomy. If you just write Acropora, you only identified the genus. Acropora means only genus. You did no species identification. If you write Acropora spa, that means you know it's one species of Acropora, but you don't know what. If you write Acropora spupa, SPP, it means there are many species of Acropora. These are very different. Acropora just means Midori Shizoku. No identification, right? Acropora spa means I know it's one species, but I don't know anything else. When you write a paper and you're not sure on what the species is, the difference between using SP and not using SP is big. It has a different meaning scientifically. So you have to be clear on this when you're writing. This is where a lot of people make mistakes with ecologists, particularly make a lot of mistakes. If you don't know if it's one or more, SPP or SPP question mark, or, there's ways to do this. Or else you stop at genus. Okay, so this comes important not only when you're writing a paper. Last week I talked about this is a repeat of labels, right? When you're writing labels, remember I talked about AF or CF or SPA? You would never write a label Acropora. It's one specimen. If you don't know, it's still Acropora SP. When you are doing taxonomy and you are doing identification and you're writing a label, it is always SP unless there's a million nematodes in your jar, like Mari maybe, right? But for most of us, it's SP when you're identifying on a label. Okay? Do you guys get SP? So the last thing I want to do is I want to give a little bit of consideration on why we need to identify the species or not. And so some of this is ecological or some of this is analytical, but there's some other things that maybe you don't know that I want to tell you. Okay, so of course, number one, identifying to species level is good, but it's risky. We've been doing a lot of rubble studies with Giovanni and Piera back in the day. Identifying higher level, less chance of mistake. Lower level, more chances of mistakes, right? But if you really want to look at something in detail, species level is the best, of course, right? It's the gold standard, but it's also not only important for you, not for your analysis, it's also important for meta-analyses. If you have a species level ID and maybe a latitude, longitude in your paper, your papers are included in a lot of databases. OBIS, GBIF. There's huge global databases, just like GeneBank, with all the information on all animals that have been seen and where they've been seen. If there's no species name or there's no GPS, they're often not included. So if you know your species or you think it's CF or maybe AFF, or you know it's one species, SPA, it's much better than genus for meta-analysis, for contributing to the scientific community. As well, latitude, longitude helps too, right? But other people will use your data more if you have better identification, okay? In other words, and this is the last thing I want to say, just like I said, your specimens, you never know how important your specimens will become. You might not know how important your identifications come with tropicalization, with species moving, with new descriptions and taxonomic revisions happening. You might get contacted randomly by someone 20 years later. Hey, this species, where did you see it? Do you have a specimen? Where's the museum? And it could become something really important. So the other thing is, just like your specimens, your identifications or the information that you include in your paper becomes really important into the future. I'm gonna stop here because the next thing we need to talk about next week, is really describing species, how to describe a species. But this gives you the basics up until there. but are there any questions about SPA or CF or AF or authorities or how to find original descriptions or anything related to that? Oh, Ju, go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me, Sensei?
Yeah, we can hear you, no problem. I like your hair, it's very
Okay. So my question is, most of the time for studies doing ecology, for example, I remember in one presentation or one PhD presentation you asked, how did you identify the species? And
Yeah.
most of the answer for, especially for ecologists, they would just answer, this guy identify this for me. We're not really sure, and it's very common to different fields from reproduction, different ecology stuff. Do you recommend that we always use CF?
So yes and no. Even if you use CF, you're still identifying the species. So when you're writing a paper and you have identifications, just like anything else, you should put in your materials and methods how you identified. We identified our species based on this paper or on this paper. Is that okay? Blue?
Yeah, for example, there's this one reproduction paper here in the Philippines, actually my lab mate.
Yeah.
She sent some pictures of sclerites and colony
To
to
Kathy?
one expert.
Yeah.
No, not to Kathy. I think to Dai from Taiwan.
Okay, so you would say
And then
specimens were identified based on sclerite photographs by CF Dye. You put the name in there. If
so you
don't
put
you don't put the
so
name in
so
there,
you put the name of the person who suggested what species
yes,
that is.
absolutely. And if the person's not comfortable,
Okay.
you need to tell them. If you say, if I email, let's say, if I have a zoantherian and I say, Roger, can you identify this for me? And Roger identifies it, and I say, okay, is it okay if I put this in a paper with your name? Because, and if he's not confident, he say no, then, but you have to, as a taxonomist, if someone emails you and says, hey, identify this, you have to understand that there's a chance that your identification is going in the paper. If you're not sure, yeah, or you AFF, use genus, or you use, who's talking? Okay, so if you're not, that's the thing is when you're identifying, you have to, just like sending an email, you have to imagine your identification is going to be open to the public. So that's the standard, right? So if you're really not sure, you need to go back a step. Instead of maybe going to species, maybe go to genus, SP, or AF, or CF, or whatever. But any identification you make for other people, you're the expert. Your name might be in the paper, your identification will be in the paper. Sorry, Joe, I muted you, but you can unmute now.
Yeah, thank you. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool, good question. Other questions? Yeah, Mari. Yeah.
What is the case of the family level?
So if you only know the family level, are you 100% sure? Family SPA. One species of that family. Fungidae sp. Totally fine. And if you're not sure, you could do CF Fungidae. Means I think it's this family, but I'm not sure. So for example, we have a paper right now that is on eDNA from Ogasawara, and a couple of our eDNA matches with Caribbean corals. It's not correct. We know it's not correct. We know we have a coral, something close to something from the Caribbean. So we did CF, Scleractinia CF Fungidae or something, right? Yeah. Okay.
The second question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Understand which one of the two versions without parentheses.
Depends, case by case. Each species has a different history. If the species was originally described, it's still in the same genus, then it's one. If it's moved, then the other.
They're both authorities, but in different places.
But okay, for example, the one that I showed before, sorry. Sorry guys, I gotta move everyone over here. Ah, now my mouse is not cool. Okay. Okay. So what you can see here, right? You can guess, right? Okay. This is for Zoanthus sansibaricus, the top is correct. This is incorrect. You don't have each species is one or the other. It's not both.
So in the case, the other, if the was moving another genus is the second.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Other questions? Yeah, August.
I saw in some paper that they mentioned, have many, more than one species.
Yeah.
And then, they write like, genus, SPA1, SPA2, SPA3.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, that's okay. That's an OTU, operational taxonomic unit. If you have no idea what the species are, but you have more than one species, SPA1, SPA2, SPA3, totally fine. But the SPA1 means SPA1, all the SPA1s are one species, but they're different from the others, but we don't know what they are. Okay, cool. Stefan had a question.
Question, you mentioned there is also the ICN,
Yes.
and what's the difference and why now?
So ICN and ICZN are different. They're started by different groups of scientists. Basically, the rules are slightly different. Especially with protists and with plants, the way that animals or the way that plants are preserved. Plants are pressed, put on pieces of paper. Protists, often you need to have a culture in a fridge or something. There's a lot of different rules involved, so they have their own type of nomenclature. Yeah, and the way that the authorities are written are also very different. No spaces in between anything. It's really weird. Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? Yeah, Guichet.
weird question.
That's
We're
okay.
talking about museums, and we are mostly working with corals. So,
Well, oh, we. Yeah, yeah.
We and coral people.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the question is, do
Aquariums.
can they become like these living museums?
No.
Are there any?
You can have a type specimen that could be alive, but as soon as that specimen dies, you better pickle it. Usually aquariums are not type repositories. Usually a type specimen is dead. Almost always. Zana Nagara. Okay? Okay. Jem mentioned there's a World Porifera database, which is actually a subset now of worms, and they have some of the species descriptions as open access. And if it's not open access, often you can get the PDFs of the old papers from the worms editor for Porifera, for example. So if you're looking for a species description, you cannot find on BDHL, you cannot find on Google Scholar, you don't have anywhere close by. You can also, those worms editors, the people I told you about, they are the people that should be the taxonomic experts on the groups. If you need zoantharians, I have 95% of them. I don't have any other groups like that. But the people on worms that are listed, they either have the PDF or a hard copy, or they know where it is most of the time. But for some groups, it's hard to find some things. Okay? Anything else? Daijoubu desu ka? All right. Next week, and we don't have any questions online. Okay, next week, we're actually going to really talk about describing, giving species names and stuff. And that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sensei.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Can't access these guys. I've got to get out of here. There we go. And then get Zoom over here. And then go stop the share. and then end that.